Let's do it. Can I have the horse hatchet shake espresso? The hatchet. No, the hatchet.
Oh, horchata?
Aye.
What the fuck is horchata? Do you have any Barry's tea?
Mr. Reuben Keeney. Everybody else calls him Rebuke. One of Ireland's biggest exports for the last decade. A musical chameleon, really. I know he's gone through a lot of different sounds, as he would do. You know, I've known him since he was 14 years old, so he's not one to shy away from trying out new genres. I mean, he's a lover of music, so why wouldn't he?
Well, I thought, you know, we're in Vegas, and what else am I going to do with somebody from Larne and somebody from Letterkenny?
Then get Cowboy hats
in
and
Las
boots.
Vegas. I thought we might as well act the part.
Aye. I think you look good in a pair of boots, do you?
Well, sure, you know I do. It's not all
That's the first time I've seen you though. And for the Cowboy boots. I've always wanted a pair of boots. It's not what I expected when I...
Yeah. Amazing, mate.
Oh, wow. He's great.
Brilliant. Before people in your world were doing like playing, like it's Mashup Central now.
Yeah.
But you were really ahead of that.
I love that, man.
Because you were doing like modular expansions,
Yeah.
like Frank the Wolf
Yeah,
stuff,
that's right.
and like really went back.
TJ's Unite.
Yep, you took it way back.
It was sick because it was like we're bringing the old school sound to like a new generation. And back then it was like, back in 2018, 2019, it was like, you know, trance wax. So Jekka was like killing it with the trance stuff, but I was like, nobody's doing the rave thing.
Yeah.
So I started keying them out, and then every fucking cast started doing it. But like for that 2 or 3 years, like it was great to like dig up. Like, but there's some tracks I didn't even know. I was also discovering some of them myself as well.
Okay.
You know, like modular expansions and stuff, and like I was hearing them for the first time too and getting super excited about them. But and then other ones and you like Moby 1000 and stuff like that. But like,
Oh, that's right, you did that.
yeah, that's a metal one.
And the B-sides as well. Did you do the B-sides? I think you did.
Yeah, I did 0B Lockup with Shadow Shell actually. That one came out officially. But then it was mostly just all SoundCloud edits and stuff, and it's mental how they still do well today.
I mean, all these places have been here for years. Golden Spike, the Golden Nugget, everything's kind of around here. Fremont Street. Kind of, if I explain it to people, it's kind of like all the people that didn't get on the Jerry Springer show is out for the weekend.
So this is one of the first places I played. The reason I liked it is because it's sort of like, it felt to me like more of a local club. Would you agree with that, Ferg? Like it feels like it's off the strip. It's a bit more kind of gritty, but also the club it's not smaller. It's like 200 people, 300 people or something. But also it just felt like you could play a bit more of like, I play techno all night, but like when I play the day parties, I'm obviously playing a bit more commercial. But you know, it just felt like I could get away with more. But yeah, it's funny. I haven't been here in a while, but
Tell me about the Sphere.
that was 2 years ago, I think. Or was it No, yeah, it was 2 years ago. I did the Anima show. He was doing like a run of shows there, like 10 or 12, and I did a back-to-back actually with this friend of mine called Chris Avantgarde. He's a really good DJ as well. And yeah, we did a back-to-back. It was the first time actually in the Sphere. I was never there before, and it was class to play it. Actually, no, I'm lying. I was there before. I went to see the Postcards from Earth show. You remember that?
Yeah.
So I went to see that first the year before, and then actually went to play the Sphere the year after. Yeah, it was sick, man. Really, really good. It was just mad to like be in somewhere it sounds. I mean, like, of course everybody goes there for the visuals, but the actual sound in the place is nearly as good as the visuals. You can just imagine they've spent nearly as much money on the sound system as they have the visuals.
Yeah. You know, it's like you walk in, that sort of whole visual experience and the sound, and everybody's up in their chairs or up standing up. They're not sat in their chairs, they're standing up. Young kids, older kids, even older kids, and really, really old kids. Because that's what it felt like. Everybody was dancing and they were just having a really good time. And it actually made me a little bit emotional. It made me feel, wow, do you know what? I've been such a grumpy bastard about all of this here, and kind of missing the link of how amazing it is that the scene has come so far from, you know, this going to clubs where your feet are sticking on the carpet because there's beer everywhere and a half speaker, to here we are in Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world, to being able to experience this music. Vegas isn't big for unearthing new talent and stuff like that. It's mostly about really famous people who are at the end of their careers performing, you know what I mean, in like Caesars, like Rod Stewart, Elton John, Rebuke.
I was waiting on that one. I was like, guys, you gotta fucking say it.
You know, I've seen since I've been in America, the music has moved forward at a quicker rate
Than Europe.
Absolutely. When we were kids.
But even,
you know, even the DJs but everything moves quicker now. So it's kind of an unfair to say one has moved forward faster than the other, whatever. We're all at different times. Everything moves faster nowadays. But, you know, my message to anybody from back home, you have to come on the right time. You know, if you're coming to Vegas and you're really into electronic music, you have to pick where you go. You have to do your research.
Yeah, exactly. You're not just going to pop into a random club.
Exactly. You know, it's like you have to put the same research in you would do if you were living in Ireland and you were going to England for the week. What club are you going to go to?
Absolutely.
Why? It's the same thing. So, you know, do that same research when you're going to America. So,
but also, like one of the things I noticed as well, especially in the past few years, is, you know, obviously I play most continents, and like when I play in Europe or even Ireland, they're very, you know, they're obviously a bit more clued in the sense where they know what they want, but also they don't really want to like move away from what they're into. So like if you're into techno, you're into techno over there, and if you're into tech house, you're into tech house. But whenever I play in America, like, you know, when I do EDC tonight, you know, I can guarantee there'll be people in the crowd coming to see me play with Juna Beats t-shirts on, or with Sarah Landry t-shirts on, or whatever, and they're drifting from one genre to another, and they appreciate all of them.
So you actually weren't the age to drink the first time I met you.
That's right.
Have you told that story much?
Well, not a few times, but it's good to hear it from the horse's mouth.
Well, I have to ask you because I can't actually remember how you got in contact. Did you get in contact with my mum?
You know exactly what I did. Remember you had those wee pink forum?
Yep.
The Fergie forum?
Yep.
I used to go on that every day. And I was sending me mixes. It was actually a great forum, man.
It was pink board, yeah.
Yeah, pink boards. And I used to go on there every day, throw my mixes up, and actually became a bit of a celebrity on there. Because like, the young fella that putting on mixes all the time, and then I think eventually somebody told you about it. And I was messaging away at you, and then I was like, hey, Fergie. I think I was on like 14 back then or something. I was like, Fergie,
13, 14,
you're playing in there, can I come see you guys? And then he says, I think it was something to do, you're like, yeah, ring my mum or something. So I rang your mommy. No, wait, hang on, I got that wrong. There's actually a friend of my dad's that used to work for my dad that knew your mum. And he used to go around, he used to be like it's all coming back to me, but he used to like sell hair products. He used to sell hair products. And one day your mommy wasn't getting her hair done, and he walks in and he's like,
way.
Yeah. And because I remember speaking to her about this in Shine at Christmas time. And he's like, I came in, this Larry fella, and he says, any chance you get a friend of mine a ticket for Fergie this weekend in Voodoo? And I goes, I don't bother. The only thing is, he's only 14.
I appreciate that there is the crossover, but I will say this, I do miss that deep belonging and tribalism.
Yeah. And that's what Europe has.
You know, it's like it's when you're in the thick of it and you're trying to break through. For instance, for me, when I was stopped playing hard house and wanted to play techno, they fucking hated me.
Yeah.
You're not coming in. You're the fucking antichrist, the pin-up boy of hard house.
Yeah.
You're not going to be allowed to play in these techno clubs. In fact, we fucking hate you. You can't.
Yeah, I know.
That's so what it was like, and it's horrible when you're in it.
Yeah.
But it's like it makes you, pushes you even more. It's like it's so important to people, and you have to look at it not as anger but as passion.
Yeah.
Right. These people are so passionate about the music, right? And you know, I just kind of miss that.
I remember years ago, you know, whenever I broke through first, I broke through obviously through Hot Creations and Jamie Jones and that whole kind of camp, you know, and I got offered shows over here with artists that were, I guess, back then viewed as more commercial, and we had to sit down really hard and be like, do we want to do this, or is it going to wreck our relationship with these guys that, you know, are putting us on? And now these days they're all doing back-to-backs together, and they're all, you know, kissing each other, and, you know, they're all playing together and making music together and stuff. But that's only 5 years ago, you know, so it just goes to show how quickly that's changed.
The only person that would never get criticised for, and he's always done it in and out of different genres, and I'm not saying he, you know, I mean, he's playing the best of different genres, still very, very headsy, but very, you know, going on a journey in his sets and going from techno to house to, you know, garage to some rock and drum and bass. Laurent Garnier.
All right.
I mean, Laurent has done that his whole life.
Yeah.
And he's probably really the only guy that's consistently done it.
I think he gets away with it probably because everybody knows he just loves it.
He gets away with it because he won't compromise, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, I was listening to Carl Cox talk about Laurent, and he was saying, you know, Laurent really wants to dig up those deepest emotions in you, and he actually wants you to cry. You have just loaned out your newest baby, the 808, but you also bought the 909.
Yeah, so feels like these days every time I fly back from Dublin Airport, it costs me more money than it is to actually do gigs there, because on the way back I always end up in some random dude's house buying stuff off adverts. So the last time I came back, I bought a JD 8000. You know that? Wow. Yeah, it was so sick. And then like 2 weeks ago, I was coming back from Turkey on the plane, and I seen a guy list a 909 and an 808 from Dublin, and I was like, no fucking way, in immaculate condition. And I always wanted like a 909 mainly, but I was like, sure, you might as well get an 808 too when you're at it. So
well, see if you go back, because you know you're going back to get it.
So I ended up picking up the two of them, and I'm super excited about them. I've ordered like MIDI stuff for it now to make it work properly in the studio, but it's just like, the minute I started to play it, I just felt like, fuck, it just feels so good, man, you know. And it's sort of like, we talked about hardware a couple of days ago, but there is something about hardware as well, where it's like you're programming in drums, and it just doesn't feel the same on software than it does hardware. You're actually playing the stuff, and just it kind of feels a bit, for me, it feels like there's more of a groove. And that's one of the things actually I spoke to Shadow Child about when I bought it first, because he's got an 808 and a 909 as well. And he was like, never sequence an 808 and a 909 in Ableton. He says half the reason for owning these bits of hardware is their own sequencer, yeah, and their own groove and their own swing, and like you can't recreate that in Ableton, you know.
Yeah. So much of what we do is emotional, right?
Yeah.
We're emotional. We're fucking emotional wrecks. So you have to look at it like creating that environment.
Yeah.
It's an environment that you want to go into. The studio, it has to be somewhere that you want to go in. You want to touch the gear. Yeah. You want to go in and go, oh my God, I've got a 909, or I've got an 808, or I've got a SP 1200, or the Juno 60, whatever it is. We have that kind of embedded romantic side of what them instruments made.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
And it's that side of it never leaves you, you know. DJing, the reality has become the demand for the spectacleness of DJing, what people in the crowd expect. And I don't really dance about and do all this, but when I'd like do twiddle the fucking few extra knobs and do a couple of you know what I mean? It's like,
but I think we come from that generation where like we had the heads down and we're playing tunes and the music's just rocking and people are getting loose. But now it's like I see it as well. That's one of the things I struggle with is that, you know, you're expected to like throw party tricks while you're DJing. It's
Exactly,
like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Are you going to fucking take your top off and jump around like a madman? I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm going to play good music and hope you like it.
what's the next project or the next move?
I think I'm going back to the groovier stuff for a bit. You know, the early Rebuke sound of like 2018, 2019. I feel like I've just been enjoying playing that a bit more. Especially like when I'm playing places like Space Terrace and stuff, and I get to, you know, get an opportunity to do it. I've just really got the bug for it again, you know.
Well, that's what you were playing the other day.
Yeah.
Marquee.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm headed back. I think. I don't really care too much about trends or where the market's at or, you know, what's hot. I just kind of do what I'm into, you know, and at the minute that's what I'm into. And that's changed through the years so much. I mean, at one point I was doing, you know, Drumcode techno sort of stuff, and then before
Which
that
was
it was
brilliant.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
I've loved all your stuff, but I really loved
that side.
yeah, that side of it, because for me, when you were doing your stuff on Drumcode, I've loved techno for a long time, but there was a bit more of a party vibe to your Drumcode, what you were doing on there.
It wasn't as pretentious as some of the other stuff.
It wasn't too chin strokey, you know what I mean? It was still felt like big vibe.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Still really stripped back, but big energy to it.
Yeah.
And even down to the sounds that you were using that wasn't happening on Drumcode.
No, exactly. And I think that's what Adam Bayer, the label owner of Drumcode, actually that's probably why he signed it. I think it was because it's a little bit different. But you know, again, that you know, I did that for, I think I did like 3 or 4 EPs on Drumcode. But then I just kind of seen, you know, I talked about this the other day with somebody, but like, you know, I fell into this melodic techno world almost. You know, I was still making the quite Drumcode stuff when I worked with Matteo Anima first. You know, our very first record was Siren. That was the first thing I sent him when we decided we wanted to do a collaboration. Mm-hmm. It came together super fast. I did it like over Christmas in 21, I think it was 2021, and then within 2 or 3 days he had played it and to them. And then the track just went fucking gangbusters. That was before the visual or before any, you know, characters. I was just him playing it in a set. But from there, I just got dragged into that world.
Well, because that technique and the way you were manipulating the sounds on that track is really what spearheaded that whole scene moving forward. Yeah. Like, it really was what Anima really took that and ran with it. Yeah. Like, I don't know if many people put that, you know, together with that, but for me, seeing that instance and seeing what he did from that's where that sound came from, was you, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it was, you know, it's a funny one because it's, you know, I kind of try and look at it where it's like, it was sick to be part of that scene, you know. It was because it was such a massive, you know, for that moment it was like such a massive sound, and it was nice to be like the guy that sort of helped move it. I'm not saying I'm the guy that did it all, but like, nice to be like a important player in that scene, you know. And you know, it sort of created so many other artists' careers, you know. I can count all day guys and you know, female artists, male artists that have had a great career from that sound, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's nice, man, you know. But also everything comes to an end, and I felt like, kind of like at the end of last year when the album came out, I kind of felt like I was done with that sound, you know. And I felt like I wanted to move on to other stuff. And you know, it's not to say that I don't like the sound anymore. It's just, again, you know, an extension to the Rebuke project, changing the way. And you know, going from Drumcode to melodic to what I'm going to now. It's just sort of the evolution of the project, and I think it's what keeps me kind of happy and it keeps me going, you know. No, I mean, look, you know, at the end of the year last year, I kind of felt like, you know, with this change of sound and just how difficult it is now, I kind of felt like I needed a fresh approach. and that included a fresh team.
Mm-hmm.
So I've basically got a brand new team. So Purple Wall are now managing me. We've got brand new agents both in Europe and North America. And I just feel like it's got this new fresh energy that we needed.
It definitely feels like that. That's why I messaged you a couple of months ago. I was like, do you know what, mate? I feel like there's a different vibe going on here, which I'm here for. I think it's brilliant because I think for so long, not just even talking about your socials, but you know, you never really got to see that other side of Reuben.
Yeah.
You know, and
very business and very music.
Well, you're a very private person.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not that you've ever been about, you know, throwing shit about, but it's definitely been nice for people to get inside and see kind of the inner workings of you know what you're getting up to. It's cool for young people that obviously look up to you, you know. So it's
no, absolutely. And for a long time, I was sort of. I kind of felt like I didn't want to be, especially in the early years, I didn't want to be known as a gimmick. You know, I didn't want to become popular just because of my social media or because of, you know, how I looked or because of anything but the music. That's why it was always, for me, I was just hiding behind the music and I felt good because it was like, you know, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because the music was strong. Mm-hmm. But now I've realized that we're in a different world and, you know, people love artists because of the whole thing rather than just the music.
Yeah.
And it's the same as me, man. Like whenever some of the artists that I follow the most, I obviously love their music, but I also love to see what they're up to and how they tour, how they make music, how they do their thing, and it should be no different to what I'm doing as well. So, but that took me a long time to figure out, you know, and really only in the past year or so did I start getting it a bit more. And I suppose the Purple Wall guys really helped push that along, and they kind of think about things a little bit differently. But kind of to go back to initially what we were talking about, you know, the fact that they're Irish and, you know, they're very easy to talk to and they get exactly where I come from. You know, they know where I'm from. They've known me for 20 years or whatever, and it just feels more like they're not my managers, they're my friends. Yeah. But we're all pushing in the same direction, which is great. You know, because that's exactly what I needed.
Basically, I wanted, you know, it's just a mixture of a lot of different thoughts, you know, sub-genre, you know, sub being, you know, lowest frequency, you know, digging a little bit deeper. And I'll be fucking traveling around the fucking world talking to absolutely awesome people like yourself. So kicking the first one off with you, it feels right. We're in Vegas as well, and you know, we got to spin a few the other day, and it's all good, baby. Got some new boots and a new wee hat.
You cowboy boots out?
You'll be looking good tonight, son.
I'll be getting the attire on. Happy days.
Thank you, man.
It's alright, thank you, man. Pleasure.